Hello and welcome to episode 46 of Real Voices of Happy Valley. In this episode, we talk to Cath Baker.
Yet another person who somebody stopped us and said, you want to talk to her. She's really interesting.
Yeah, it's great, isn't it, that we get recommendations from people. And,
And if anyone out there is listening, if you want to recommend somebody, just get
yourself.
in touch.
Yeah. Yes, just do. Yeah, and Cath's great. She's, like a lot of people in the valley, really busy. She's a full-time social worker and has a couple of daughters, and also, which is the point of this interview, rescues badgers. And we all love a badger, don't we? There's just something about them. And she was on the Yorkshire Vet because of her badgering activities.
Badgering? Did she badger the vet?
Yeah. So, well worth a listen.
Yes,
she's great.
Let's go and talk to her. And welcome to our podcast. And we're sitting in a lovely living room here with Cath Baker. Hello, Cath.
Hi.
We've come to talk to you about what you do with badgers.
That's right.
Is it Calderdale Badgers?
It is Calderdale Badger Protection Group.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So why do badgers need protecting, first of all?
Oh, so many reasons.
Really?
So I think a lot of people don't realise that badgers are still very badly persecuted. The old days of badger baiting and things are not the old days, unfortunately, and people do still go out and dig them out of their sets and attack them with dogs. That's moved on from the old days where now they video them on their phones and the horrific abuse. Plus, then there's the badger cull. So we campaign against the badger cull. That happens more down the south and west. We're hoping with the change of government that might come to an end.
Is that to do with TB?
It is.
Allegedly, they have TB and spread it.
Yeah.
Which, as far as I'm aware, it's not scientifically proven that that's the case. Or
No,
am I wrong?
I think, it's a complicated one, that. So the TB question, there's lots of evidence that over 96% of TB passed between cattle is cattle-to-cattle transmission.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
It's a respiratory virus. It's passed from cow to cow through close contact. And badgers just do not have that kind of close contact with cows. That's not to say there's no evidence that they actually 100% can't pass it on, but the majority of the transmission is cattle to cattle. And so for years now, chief government scientific advisors in the past, when they've produced reports, have said the focus needs to be on cattle to cattle transmission and stopping it there. And yet the Conservative government just carried on with this cull, and they've killed over 230,000 badgers in 10 years. And interestingly, in Wales, they haven't killed any badgers. And in England, south and west mostly, so next door to Wales, they have. So if you wanted to set up a really unethical experiment 10 years ago, you could have said, OK, we'll leave Wales and we won't kill badgers, and we'll kill nearly 250,000 in England. And everyone would have been there'd been an outcry, wouldn't there? Like, you can't do that just to find out whether it's effective or not. Anyway, they've done it. And what it has shown is that it's not effective, because actually the levels of TB in Wales and England have both come down a bit, but because of cattle-based measures. Mm-hmm. So the badgers were a red herring. So it's been a terrible thing. We're very lucky that we haven't had a cull here. Yorkshire as a whole there's no evidence of TB in the area. So there's been the odd isolated case of TB in cattle, but there's no evidence of it in wildlife.
But so is good. People attacking badgers with dogs or however they're doing it, is that common?
Not as common as it used to be. But we do have sets that get dug in Calderdale. We work really closely with the wildlife crimes officer who used to be Matt Hamilton, who was just down the road in Walsden. And now he's retired from that role within the police, but it's Tony Byrne who's based at Brighouse. But they've both been brilliant with us. And they alert us when there has been a wildlife crime involving badgers. We pass on crimes to them. And the sorts of crimes that are more common in Calderdale are sets being disturbed, but not by people who are deliberately trying to harm badgers. So it might be bottle diggers looking for antique bottles in old ash tips. And they inadvertently dig into, or whether they know or not, but they dig into badger sets because the badgers may have made their home there. So we have those, and then we have people building bike trails through the woods. And of course, badgers leave these great big spoil heaps of earth outside the holes, the entrances to their sets, and they look like almost moguls on a ski slope. So the kids come or middle-aged men on mountain bikes, and they just
middle-aged men are kids really.
And they build their trails through the middle of these sets, and where they I mean, they're quite elaborate. I found one the other day in Todmorden. Luckily, it hadn't harmed a badger set, but you know, they build up banking round the edge where they're going round these tight curves. And we did have one in Hebden Bridge where they'd done that, built the banking up round. When we started to dismantle it to discourage them, and we'd worked with the police and we'd said, we're going to put these signs up and we'll take it down. When we actually dismantled this, we found 2 of the holes to the badger set had been completely blocked by this curve that they'd made.
So they could have suffocated.
Completely, yeah. And I just don't think they realise what they're doing when they do it. But it is a wildlife crime. You know, it's against the law. There's badgers themselves have specific protections. There's the Protection of Badgers Act 1992 because of the particular persecution they suffer. So it's actually illegal to do anything to harm a badger, but also to harm where it lives. And that could be a hole in the ground, or it could be underneath your decking. But wherever it's decided to live, you're not allowed to disturb it. So
I suppose to be fair to the people doing the bikes and that, you don't know where badgers live, do you? Most of the time, they're very shy creatures, aren't they? And you very rarely see one. There was one outside our house once, wasn't there? We'd gone out and all the neighbours were saying there was a badger on the grass verge outside your house, you know. And they were all saying it felt privileged to see it, you know. And we were disappointed to miss it. But yes, it must be hard to see without giving away where they are. You know,
we did see one in our back garden. We lived in Dodnays up above Hebden Bridge. There's one in our back garden. I think we both shocked each other. And it scarpered fairly quickly anyway.
And people are fascinated, aren't they? Because they are quite elusive, and most people have only seen them dead at the side of the road, haven't they? But
So what do you do to protect them?
Okay, so we do all sorts of things.
So sorry, when you say we, how many?
So Calderdale Badger Group has about 60 members, but of those, some are just sort of armchair supporters who want to give us money each year and follow what we're doing because they appreciate what we do, which is brilliant too. You know, we need those people too. And then some are more active in lots of different ways. So but we broadly split into various areas. So there's a planning group who they filter through the council's planning applications and have a look and see which ones are in areas that might affect badgers. So, you know, if it's an extension onto a garage, it's unlikely to affect badgers. But there are lots of planning applications that have quite significant impact, particularly when it's lots of houses. And it's not that we can... So we do get people contacting us because they think we're just going to be able to stop a housing development. And we can't, you know. But what we can do is make sure that badgers, that the mitigation plans they have to put in place where there's badgers present are followed properly, and that they haven't missed badger sets. So we work really closely with the planning department and have a good relationship with them. That's not so much my bit. My bit's more the sort of urgent response side of things. So we get reports from members of the public that badgers will have been killed on the road. And we always go out to those as quickly as we can for several reasons. One is that to check it's actually dead, because sometimes badgers are reported at the side of the road as dead and they turn out not to be dead. So we had one last year who was over Sorby Bridgeway, and she was reported to the council as dead, and the out of hours council contacted us because they knew to contact us. That was in the middle of the night, and then about 5 minutes later someone else contacted us to say, I've just seen a badger in the middle of a road with a head moving. And it was the same one. But we were already on our way, and when we got there she'd managed to crawl to the side of the road, and not to be too gory, but the amount of blood that was on that road, if she'd managed to crawl off into the bushes, I'd have assumed that she was dead and that someone had picked up her body. You know, it was pretty gory on the road. Yet she'd managed to crawl to the side of the road and had curled up with her head under a paws, which is how they tend to be when they're worried or frightened. And she was quite laboured breathing. We took her to the vets, and actually she only needed a few days of rest and recuperation. She had concussion, but no significant injuries. And a few days later we were able to take her back and release her at night. It's exactly where you're supposed to release them, exactly where you find them.
Yeah.
Yes, because they know where they are.
They know where they are.
Yeah.
You don't know where they live, but they do. And off she went home. And we had an inkling of where she lived because one of our members lives nearby. And so he'd put a camera out at the set, and we were able to match up the markings, and we had images of her with her family a few days later. Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
That was because, I mean, I don't know that much about badgers, but they live in families, don't they?
Yes,
so
they do.
If you see an injured or dead badger, then that's going to affect younger badgers, presumably.
Yes, and certainly. So this is
frequently.
another reason we go and check on badgers, because if it's certain times of year, if it's a lactating mother, if it's a sow who's lactating, then there could be injured cubs nearby.
Yeah.
And we had one earlier this year who was reported to us, and actually one of the cubs had died as well. But the reporter said, well, when she goes to check on the horses, she'd see this mum with the cub dead close by, and then they'd cross over the road, and she'd always wait, because a few moments later another 2 cubs would come past. So we knew that mum and the cub had been killed, but that meant there were another 2 cubs.
Yeah.
So again we found where the set was, which was quite close by, because at that age they wouldn't be going out too far anyway. And so we've had members going out for about 2 months after, putting out food each night to make sure that they had. We didn't want to take the cubs away; they were old enough to look after themselves.
Yeah, yeah.
But just to make sure they had the best start, because mum's gone. So they went and they've put a camera out. We've had food out, like peanuts and peanut butter sandwiches.
Is that what they're like?
Yeah, just a peanut butter sandwich.
Just like you like that.
Yeah, cut up. They're very spoiled. You know, with the 100% peanut butter.
Yeah.
So they put them out, and they've been wolfing that away, and they've been more than happy. But yeah, and then the other reason we go out and check them is because just occasionally they may not have actually been killed on the road. So we have had a couple that have been shot, and they've been near the road, but not on the road. And when you've had a look, they've had a hole with blood pumping. And again, the wildlife crimes officer will take the body away and retrieve a bullet if it's still inside, and they do a full, they do full investigations into it.
It's hard to believe what some people consider to be fun or sport or whatever they consider it to be.
I know.
At times. Yeah.
And then the other work we do as a group is we go out and we search areas for sets if we feel that there should be a set that we've missed. We go out and check sets that we think are quite vulnerable because they're in high risk areas, either old ash tips and things like that, or development sites, or just areas where we've had previous crime go on. And what else do? We do quite a lot, really. We respond to members of the public contact us about badgers digging up their gardens, and or what to feed badgers that are coming to visit their gardens. So you get people who are really happy about them coming, and people who are less happy about them coming.
Do you do educational stuff about badgers in schools or?
We'd love to do that. At the
Yeah.
moment, the group just hasn't had the capacity to do that. So we've got a few new members at the moment who are keen,
Yeah,
and we're definitely going to develop that side of
because
things.
I think that would go down well, don't you, in schools? Yeah.
I'd have thought so.
Yeah.
It's one of those sort of wildlife animals, perhaps because they're cute.
Yeah.
Everybody,
Yeah.
well, most people anyway,
Yeah.
have sort of affection towards.
Well, I think black and white animals generally people have a fondness for, don't they? Zebras and pandas. And,
That's true.
Yeah, true.
And
And I suppose they're so
badgers,
iconic, aren't they? And they've been part
Yeah.
of, they've been around in literature for so long, haven't they? They're all badgers
Yeah.
in children's books, aren't
Yeah.
they? Wind in the Willows
Yes.
through to
Yeah.
and cartoons and different things.
And
yeah.
you imagine them as kind of, I always think of them as male and slightly curmudgeonly, but good-hearted, really.
That's me.
Oh, yeah. I knew I was mixing them up, Dave.
Now, you believe you're on the Yorkshire Vet TV programme.
Yes.
Recently.
Very briefly, I might say, the star of that show was Buster. So Buster was a badger who the police contacted us about soon after the one. So soon after the one that was reported, I think it was the police might have reported the first one in as dead in the middle of the road. So they contacted us and said, we're with a badger, we're going to stay with it. So this badger was on a busy road, but managed to get onto the pavement, and they waited with her, it turned out, but called her Buster. They thought she was a boy.
Yeah.
So and we do a lot of work with Donaldson's vets in Huddersfield who do an out of hours, and they're quite used to us bringing badgers in. So Buster went over there, and then she went from there to a rehab place that we use because she needed a bit of R&R. And whilst she was there, we were concerned about her leg, that she was limping still.
Oh, right.
So she went back over to Donaldson's for an X-ray, and then came back to the rehab for another couple of weeks, and then she was ready for release. But of course, Yorkshire Vet used Donaldson's, so they got a hold of the story and contacted us and said, "Oh, could we film?" And we said, "Well, that's fine as long as it doesn't negatively impact Buster at all. We're quite happy to." So they filmed the X-ray part, and then they came out when we were going to release Buster, which, because of where she was found, and she's an adult badger, you have to release her exactly where she was found. It was 3:00 in the morning because it's a busy road. So we didn't want to release her when there might be cars about.
No.
So we went back at 3:00 in the morning to release her, and a film crew there. And of course, there's that fear of thinking, what's going to happen if we don't know which way she's going to run. So if she ran one way, she'd be off into undergrowth and happy. But if she ran the other way, there was another even busier road above. So she could have gone up the steps and just straight out into traffic. So we had about 6 or 7 of our volunteers there with these sheets, and they were hiding in amongst the cars, the parked cars at the side of the road, so that if she came out, obviously we opened the cage when there was no traffic, but if she had taken a minute to come out and there'd been traffic coming in that time, they were ready with the sheets to sort of jump up, not for the cars, for her. And luckily, when we actually opened the cage, she just ran off into the undergrowth, so it was fine.
Oh, fantastic.
So happy ending.
Yes.
Thanks
There you
a
go.
lot.
Badger story with a happy ending.
That's
all literature for you.
They are nocturnal creatures, aren't they?
So it's their normal time to be out and about, is it?
Yeah.
At night.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those things you're just not sure because you hardly ever see them. So you don't know. Yeah.
But this is only one of the things you're involved in, isn't it?
It is.
Cath? Because you're involved with the Bridestones Rewilding group as well, which we talked to Steve about a few episodes ago. And I mean, what do you do with that? We know that they're trying to raise money to buy the land and what have you. But you organised a fundraising gig at the Golden Lion?
That I did, yes. So I was very aware that Beans on Toast, the folk
great
singer, has a song about Toppington, doesn't he? And he mentions the Bridestones.
Yeah.
So I'd asked Gig if we could do some kind of fundraiser at the Golden Lion anyway. Because I suppose my role in Bridestones is less, I'm not an ecologist, and I'm not, I don't have those skills. I'm interested in nature, but I don't have the sort of scientific background or skills on that side. I'm more the sort of community engagement side of things. So so I'd ask Gig, could we do a gig, some kind of fundraiser? And she said, yes, of course you can, Cath, no problem. So the date we'd picked was the 19th of May. And then it turned out that Jay from Beans on Toast was doing a benefit gig in Littleborough the night before. And my friend contacted me and said, did you know? So we got in touch with him and he agreed to come and do us an hour, which was great. Nice. Yeah.
He's a lovely bloke, isn't he?
Yeah, really nice. Have you met him?
Yes. Well, I used to be a stage manager at festivals,
so
I've come across him. I had, I'll probably cut this out, but I had the pleasure of introducing him to John Otway. And I think they did a tour together after that.
Wow. Yeah. No, he's such a nice guy. So so he came over and did that for us, and it was a massive success. We made about $2,000, but less the money. It was more the fact that so many people came. They had a really good time. It spread the word. We launched our T-shirts at the time. Yes, huge success since. So Jenny, who's another of the directors, is a really good artist. So she designed the logo for Bridestones, and we created these T-shirts, and we just weren't expecting them to take off quite as much as they have, but we've sold about 50 already, and we've got more orders. We're going to have to put another order in.
I was going to say, for anyone interested in buying a T-shirt, including us, I think, for me anyway, what do they do? Who do they contact?
So if you do Facebook, you can go onto Facebook and go onto the Friends of Bridestones More page and just put a message on through there, or they can contact Cath at bridestones.love, which is my email address.
Is that Cath with a K or a
Cath?
C?
Oh yeah, good point. Cath with a C.
Right, okay.
At bridestones.love, and they could do it through there. It comes through to me. So yeah, no problem.
Okay.
Yeah. And no doubt we'll have other events on soon. We've got our next plan, if anyone's out there is an artist and is interested, is we're hoping to do an auction. So, and it's going to be either local artists or art of local places. So it's art with a local connection. And we'll probably be holding the actual auction at, do you know Natural Endings, the funeral parlour on Ride. They've done out the old post office building.
Yes.
It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. So they've offered the space for us to use. So we'll have an in-person auction, but in the run-up to that, we'll do a Facebook auction. So we can really promote all the artists and their bio and links and everything.
So if there's any artists out there, also
get in touch. Yes, get in touch.
Is it Cath at bridestones.love?
Perfect. Yes, that would be great. We've got a few people already involved, interested, and who've donated work, which is brilliant. But more would be great. Yeah.
So you're going to have an exhibition in the Rise Lane post?
Yes. Yeah. It'll probably only be a one day. It'll be the final day of the auction.
Yeah.
So we'll do a Facebook auction in the run up, so that people who can't make it on the day can have a chance to bid as well, and just to reach a wider audience. Then on the day, people can come and outbid in person. And we've also got some of our own artwork. So Andrew Tilsley, who's a local wildlife artist, he's brilliant. He's created us a beautiful painting of what Bridestones could be, with all the different animals and birds and plants and things. So that will be available in print form, as well as cards with pictures of the different birds that people have taken up at Bridestones and things. There'll be lots of...
Sounds lovely.
And, a little glass of wine, some nibbles.
Glass of wine.
Nice.
I'm in. Yes. Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. Well, thanks for that, Cath. It's really interesting. And you are yet another incredibly busy person in this valley, because you've got a full-time job as well.
Well, yes, I do. Yes, I'm a social worker too. So I work in the Community Dolls team, which is visiting people in care homes. And checking that the care they're getting is in their best interests, if they haven't been able to make that decision for themselves because of either dementia or learning disability or brain injury. So that's a great job, because it takes me all over the borough. I get to meet really interesting people and speak to their families, so I love that job. Yes, but I have to fit that in amongst everything else.
Okay, well, thanks a lot for talking to us.
No problem at
That
all.
was great.
Yeah, been lovely. Thanks.
Okay.
Thank you.
So Cath mentioned Beans on Toast performing as a fundraiser for Bridestones.
Yeah, we discovered him not that well. You've known him for a while, haven't you? But I just heard his song about the Golden Lion recently and loved it.
And perhaps we should finish off with it.
Perhaps we should.
Alan was a copper in Yorkshire in the 80s, a fine upstanding gentleman patrolling the valleys, and one night he saw flashing lights up on the hill. Although he couldn't explain them, he knew them to be real. Of course nobody believed him while he stuck to his story. Got fired from the force, extradited from society. But every other Tuesday night they still talk of his legacy in the Golden Lion at the Todmorden UFO Society. Holly's got her own take. She knows them to be fairies. She runs the folklore museum in town above the bakery, a treasure trove of tales, talking of a distant past before they killed off all the witches, exorcised all of the ghosts. I've been there on my travels. I broke some bread, and with a woven willow cross I played a little gig. As promised, the Bridestones were worth the climb, and when the heavens opened, I took it for a sign. This country's full of boozers, and I've seen my fair share. Something about this valley, though, there's magic in the air. You can see it in the scenery, in the faces, in the stones. Feel it in the public house that makes you feel at home. Somewhere the magic still lives on, at the Golden Lion in Todmorden. Aliens and fairies are a hard pill to swallow. The local poets are a tough act to follow. More than likely there's a meaning behind the myth. From Hell, Ho and Halifax may he deliver us. 'Cause in this part of the county there's an unusual history, where in medieval times there thrived a cottage industry with no lord looking over. People lived in free tenancy, and without the church they lived free from authority. And so began a legacy that's still living now. You can see it in the kindness stickers all over the town. Hear it in the cold wind that blows across the stones. Feel it in the public house that makes you feel at home. Somewhere the magic still lives on, at the Golden Lion in Todmorden. If you're in West Yorkshire, pop in for a drink. You might find Jarvis Cocker doing the twist. You might find Steve Davis playing the locals at pool, or an awesome local band playing in the upstairs room with D&B monitors fresh out of the box. Not the kind of sound system that you find in a pub. They'll have you fed and watered answered. For when it comes to scran, there's the best Thai food this side of Thailand. And like a lucky dragon at a helm behind the bar, she goes by the name of Gig. She is the lion's beating heart. I'm not sure if she's an alien or if she's a fairy, but she is the hero of this Todmorden story. This country's full of boozers, and I've seen my fair share. Something about this valley, though, there's magic in the air. You can see it in the scenery, in the faces, in the stones. Feel it in the public house that makes you feel at home. Somewhere the magic still lives on.